Happy New Year to you all. I will be just tucking into some supper during the live stream. I hope you don't mind. It's been one of those kind of days where that has gone on, and you know just a way that it goes. There's something that I'll be reading as well as we start off, which is something that was part of the King George the Sixth Christmas Message in 1939, and it's something that I feel is probably quite appropriate actually at the moment. And it's a poem called "The Gate of the Year." It's also titled "God Knows." It was written in 1908 by a lady called Minnie Louise Haskins, and I think after the year that we've had, it's quite an appropriate thing to have. And I said to the man who stood at the gate of the year, "Give me a light that I may tread safely into the unknown." And he replied, "Go out into the darkness and put your hand into the hand of God. That shall be to you better than light and safer than a known way." So I went forth, finding the hand of God, and trod gladly into the night. And he led me towards the hills and the breaking of day in the lone east. So heart, be still. What need our little life, our human life, to know, if God have comprehension? In all the dizzy strife of things both high and low, God hideth his intention. God knows his will is best. The stretch of years which wind ahead, so dim to our imperfect vision, are clear to God. His fears are premature, and him all time have full provision. Then rest until God moves to lift the veil from our impatient eyes, when as the sweeter features of life's stone face beheld, fair beyond all surmise, God's thought around his creatures our mind shall fill. So there we are. I don't think you were quite expecting a poetry recitation tonight, but that's what's happening. Anyway, I can see 4 of you are watching, so is there anything that you have to say before we move on to something else? And, I attempt to have my supper at the same time. Good evening, Jonathan. How are you? Yes, Depeche Mode music. I think we're just going to ignore the fact that there's a 0 in your username tonight, because that's going to be easier for me to say. Good evening, Adam. How are you, all you gentlemen? Scottish Car Enthusiast Television. Good evening to you as well. Happy New Year, sir. So I'm just going to have a bit of supper whilst I'm talking to you as well. It's just the way that things have turned out tonight, and I have my tiger beer. Mr. G, good evening. Depeche Mode music, don't worry, that's fine. I will have a little bit of supper, and I've got the questions scrolling in front of me on my laptop, so I can actually see at the same time what's going on, which actually seems to work quite well. And the camera angle tonight is better than before, I hope. Mr. G, I'm not on fire. I'm tucking into some fine supper that was made by my lady wife, who is actually monitoring the stream as well, because that's what she always does. She's very kind like that. So yes, I'm not on fire. There's no fire in here. I'm just enjoying my supper whilst I'm speaking to you. So, does anyone have anything they want to ask? That's good. 13 people so far. That's excellent. Very nice. Jonathan, have you ever driven an Austin Maxi? No, I would love to try an Austin Maxi. I think I might be trying an Allegro later this year. There's a chap called Rick who has a channel called Austin Allegro Agatha, and I've been offered to drive that at some point, so I'd like to drive that. Also a Maxi, a Princess, a Marina, Morris Tal in particular. I think it's one of my channel viewers has said I could drive his Morris Tal, which would be wonderful. Neukunde, haha, guten Appetit. Yes, indeed, guten Appetit. I have a degree in German, so it's very appropriate. That Tiger Beer is very nice. Obviously not sponsored by Tiger Beer or any other company on this channel. Anybody else got any other questions? It's neither a Depeche Mode music. It's neither a chili con carne or a curry. It's a bolognese with rice. Scott Enthusiast TV, love Rick's Allegro. Yeah, it's a great, Austin Allegro Agatha is a great channel. Have you looked at his camper van channel? No, I haven't yet, actually. I've not seen the camper van channel. Camper vans aren't really quite my thing, but I'll probably have a look at it at some point. Mr. Harry Cox, hello, sir. Adam Toms, my father had a Natal as a rep car in 1983 after upgrading from Allegro. It'd be nice to see. Yes, I'd like to drive both an Allegro and a Natal. For some reason, I prefer the Natal to the Arena. Mr. Coleman thinks I'm insane, but yeah, I prefer the Natal to the Allegro. But when I went to the British Leyland Autumn Rally, BL Autumn Rally in Milton Keynes in September, they had some lovely Itals there. Those Itals were perfect. They were perfect. The better than would have come out of a Cowley factory in 1982, 83. And I saw those and they were so nice. Like, I really want to get one of those on the channel. So, Steve Staff, good evening, sir. Will you be purchasing a Rover Future? I don't know actually at the moment. We'll have to see. Possibly, I don't know. Planet Auto, Mr. and Mrs. Quirk, good evening, enjoying supper. Yes, I'm enjoying my supper. Unfortunately, it's just sort of turned out the way that it is, and I am enjoying my supper just on the live stream. Mr. Cox, am I late? Not really, sir, so that's fine. Canadian World War II reenactor UK. That's a very interesting username. What do you think of the Fiat Panda 2012 onwards, especially 1.2? But the 2012 onwards Fiat Panda, the Mark III, is very, very similar to the Mark II and also the Fiat 500 from 2007 onwards, because they're all based on the same chassis, and so is the second generation Ford car. So yeah, I mean the Fiat Panda second generation. I tried a 100 horsepower variant of that, courtesy of Mr. Jake Bill from the Wall's YouTube channel, on Sensible Secondhand Reviews recently. So you can have a look at that. It was released last month. The other one, the third generation one, which is still in production now, I think is a fine car. The 1.2 is a very reliable engine generally. That's it's just literally just this year been replaced. I think there's actually still some new ones you can get with the 1.2. I don't think that's particularly a bad car at all. I prefer probably the look of the Mark II, but they're essentially the same. Mr. Cox again. Thoughts on the Smart 4.4? The Smart 4.4, there's two versions of that. One of them would be the Mitsubishi Colt based one, which I think was launched in about 2004. I've never tried one. I would like to try one of those at some point. They're not a lot around anymore. I don't know an awful lot about them, to be honest. So they look okay, I should think. Yeah, but then there's the Renault Twingo based one that was launched, 2012, something like that. I can't remember. Someone else will have to enlighten me. I think it was something like that. Rear engine car, quite interesting. Not a massive sort of fountain knowledge about smarts, really. I did have somebody offer me a Smart 4.2 automatic first generation one at about September or so on the channel. I got back to him and he never got back to me. Maybe the emails got lost, something. I would like to try some kind of smart on the channel. Mr. Cox, is the 500 on the same platform as the Lancia Ypsilon? I think it is. Don't quote me on that, but I think the Lancia Ypsilon or the Chrysler Ypsilon, it was sold in this country for a while, until 2015. Yes, I think so. Depeche Mode music, what would you say is your favourite car at £15,000? That used to be, if you're talking new, used to be the MG ZS, because you could get one of those for £14,000. You can't now. Same thing with the SsangYong Tivoli. I think you can get a base model for under £15,000 now. So yes, probably one of those, to be honest. MG3 is also very good, of course. We had one of those for a number of years. Bonjour, Monsieur Lloyd. Bonjour, Monsieur Voulard. Travely, good evening, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you as well, sir, and everyone else. Jojo, disappointed to hear of SsangYong going to the receivership. I really like the Corando. They're trying to actually offload SsangYong to another manufacturer at the moment. That's what they're doing. The latest news I've heard from the SsangYong community, that's what they're trying to do. So, they aren't going to disappear, I don't think, entirely. I hope not, anyway. So, yes, I hope to have some good news. Mahindra and Mahindra, who've owned them for 10 years, they're just trying to offload them, I think. So, yes, we might see some more stuff. These C300 Corando, which I had on pre-jacket reviews at about August this year, was one of the best cars of the year. Absolutely no doubt about that. Mr. Woolard, Happy New Year. Yeah, thank you, sir. Happy, a great birthday. It was a very quiet, socially distanced birthday, sir. As you'd expect, being in Tier 4, not an awful lot you can do, but we had a nice takeaway evening because all the restaurants are shut. Scottish Car Enthusiast Television. What would you thought to be on a Mark 4 or Mark 6 Escort? Mark 5 Escort pre-facelift, not a great car. Mark 5 post-facelift Escort, particularly the Orion. I quite like those, particularly in Orion gear. So 92 onwards. They didn't actually sell the Orion beyond about September 93. It got then rebadged as just an Escort saloon. But the gear ones I think are quite nice, but certainly not a pre-facelift one. Post-facelift, just better all round really. Mark 6, they're not bad actually. I've never had a chance to drive one of those. I think I'd like to have a Mark 6 on No Budget Reviews. John Edwards, Ypsilon was certainly a rebadged 500 with 5 doors. Yeah, as far as I know. I think they're still making it. Actually, it's the last Lancia model actually made. Yeah, that'll be going at some point, but Lancia will disappear, unfortunately. They've put the mild hybrid engine in that from the 500 and the Panda. That's gonna at some point in the near future, that platform, which has underpinned the Panda 500 and Ypsilon, originally since 2003, that's going to disappear entirely. Mr. Coleman, rubbish mechanic. Good evening, sir. Depeche Mode music. Do you rate Dacia as a brand? I don't know really. I have driven a Logan. I've driven one in 2017. It was unfortunately one that was powered by the forbidden fuel, so not necessarily the best one for me to drive, but it was actually a lot better than I was expecting. I have heard things that the Dusters rust quite well, the first generation ones. So yeah, I mean, I don't think it's bad for what you're paying for one of those, but they have very tight margins on those, so you're not likely to get a discount or anything. I just prefer to have something else. It's just my preference, really. Mr. Jake Bill from Woz Wheels. Hello, friends. Yes, hello, sir. Mr. G, the thoughts of the Mark 1 Focus. I've driven one of Mark 1 Focus, and it was pretty good. The particular one I drove, there was something wrong, I think, with the engine management or the clutch in it, so it wasn't the best. But they're not bad cars. They're getting very rare. That rust issues kill a lot of them off. The clutches didn't last that long in them. Obviously, the timing belt engine. You want to make sure you do that. They're getting quite rare. So yes, Mr. Travellee, Capri or Manta? Yes, I have seen Mr. Richardson's latest video from Furious Driving, and the thing is, he had a Capri 1.6 LS versus a Manta GTE, and they're not really that comparable because the GTE is top of the range Manta, and you've got the X 1.6 LS Capri that has about 72 horsepower and was a lot more basic. Now, having driven a 2.8 injection Capri, which has a very similar kind of interior, not exactly the same, it's similar. The interior is certainly relatively similar to the Vera, but I mean, it's difficult to compare because there's not really the power there in a 1.6 Capri in comparison. I think I'd love to try the Manta. There's one actually lives not quite near me, but it's quite rusty and stuff, and I don't think it's the best example of them. But I wanted to try one, particularly because I lived in Germany for a while. Yeah. Mr. Woolard, there is a Ypsilon Type 840 near my house. If you want to photograph, yes, please. Paul JN, good evening, Mr. Lloyd. Good evening, sir. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you as well. Canadian World War II reenacted UK. Do you think that the Mark 1 iGo, that would be the Citroen C1 and the Peugeot 107 as well, clutches are weak, it seems to go a low mileage? I don't really know. Putting a clutch in one of those, I think, is quite easy. Mr. Coleman will be able to enlighten you about how easy they are to work on because he's done several of those. Mr. Wood, I think the Mark 1 Focus is better than Mark 2 on the driving front. The Mark II, I've driven the Mark II, and I'm hoping to have a full review of a Mark II at some point on channel. I have been offered actually one of those to do. The Mark II wasn't that special. I drove a 1.6 style one of those in about 2009, and it wasn't really that special. I mean, maybe the bigger engine ones possibly are. They're not bad cars. The Mark III, yeah, I drove a Mark III as well. I drove a 2016 Focus 1.6, 1 litre EcoBoost automatic, I think it was. No, sorry, manual. It was a 1 litre EcoBoost manual. I think with about, was it 110, 115 horsepower, something like that. In Germany, Autobahn. That was a nippy car actually. That wasn't too bad. But it has the EcoBoost engines aren't that reliable though, so they are a little bit of a problem. Yes, I know you are familiar with the Mark IIs in particular, aren't you, sir? Mr. Jake Bill, Wells Wheels. The Duster that the UK got in 2012 was built in India. They didn't get much production. Yeah, quite possibly. They were known as the Dacia Ruster, some people would call them that, I think. When changed to Romanian built, rust protection improved, I would hope so. Having a car that's less than 10 years old and it rusting is not great these days. Depeche Mode music. I only asked my brother-in-law has a Mark 1 Duster, although it's quite basic inside. It's one of the most reliable cars he's had. The engineering of the Mark 1 Duster is very, very simple. It's based on a Renault Clio platform that dates back to about 1998, so you'd expect them to have sorted that out by now. Mr. John Edwards, following off Mr. Richardson's chat, are you drinking any cider this evening? No, I'm not drinking cider this evening. I'm actually drinking some Tiger beer because I got some for Christmas. One of Jackie Chan's favourite beers, and it's very nice. What's my favourite cider in general? I don't know. I used to drink a lot of that tourist cider from Aldi, but I shouldn't really tell you that, should I? Scottish Car Enthusiast TV. Mark 1 Focus always made the best Focus, and a Mark II. Enjoyed it, not a looker. But the post facelift Mark II Focuses are a lot better looking. Driven Mark III on holiday, disappointed with it. It's okay. Most dynamic car I've ever driven, and it had an automatic handbrake. I don't like those very much. Not driven a Mark IV yet. No, neither have I. Mr. Adam Toms, someone has the new Mark IV Focus near me. Styling is much improved. Still a bit concerned with his EcoBoost or the EcoBoom engines, as Mr. Coleman calls them. Yes, it's not a bad looking car. It looks a little bit weird. I don't know if I like it. Like the new Land Rover Defender, I still don't know if I like the look of those or not. I saw one actually, Goodwood Revival in 2019. There was one on the centre speed, actually one of my videos actually. So I don't actually know if I like those or not. Yeah, I'm sure they're okay. Mr. Coleman, working on Noston 3 litre tomorrow, sir. Oh, I think I do know what one you've been speaking about, sir. Excuse me. Mr. Jonathan Bramble, the cooling system pipes were inferior on the EcoBoost engine, leading to overheating problems. Yes, I think that's one of the issues, certainly. Mr. Coleman, I'm sure, will enlighten us if there are any more. Excuse me, we'll have some more of my supper. Well, that's nice. That's very nice. Right, Mr. Trabley, 27 watching, only 8 likes. Come on, chaps. Well, that's up to them, I think, if they want to like it or not. It obviously would be nice if there were some more, but there we go. I got offered a couple of cars to film today. I won't give away. Oh, 2 more likes. Thank you, gentlemen, and 3 more people watching. Thank you. I got offered a couple of cars to film today, and one of them I think hopefully will be filmed as soon as possible. The other one I think might take a while because it's in a different area of the country for me to get to, but it is a very, very nice car. Mr. Woolard, lucky you aren't wearing glasses, that's steam. Yes, indeed, sir. I do apologise. Mr. G, I'm sure your Focus will be all right because you're looking after it very nicely. Mr. Coleman, are you eating a Catholic family-sized dinner? No, I'm not, sir. I'm eating a modestly sized dinner, and I've only had a couple of mouthfuls of it so far, so that's why it's taking me so long, because I'm trying to keep up the questions which are coming through. Mr. Thomas Harrison Lord, do you have a car of your wish list? Yes, I do. I actually do, yes. near the top is the Suzuki Kashi, as you might have seen on the community page for for a while. I really would love to do a Kazashi. Also stuff in there is things like Volvo 340, Volvo 440, Volvo 480. I actually saw one of those today near where we live. It was I think it's quite a late one. It's a facelift one. Love to do one of those. There's lots of others as well. Montego, hoping to do one of those quite soon as well. There's all sorts of things that I'd like to do actually. I did a sort of wish list about 18 months ago, but I've got so many that I've been offered now that it's sort of slightly pointless doing them. At the moment, I'm just really grateful for anything that I can get. And if you want to submit your car for review, particularly if you do live near where we are in Hampshire, then please do get in touch. It is japl745@hotmail.com. Let's just have a bite of this. Very nice. Jojo, no, it's not an Indian meal. I'm not eating an Indian meal. It is some bolognese sauce effectively with meat in it, but it's with rice instead of the pasta, which is unusual. Depeche Mode music. He knows we like him. That's why we're here. But yeah, you know, it's very kind of you to all be here. Very nice. Canadian World War II reenactor, UK. Fiat Bravo 1.8 ELX or Fiat Bravo 2 litre HGT. I don't know. I don't know the Bravos and Bravos well enough really to be able to say. Probably either of those would be nice. I know the Fiat Marea with a 5-cylinder engine, it's a 2.4 is pretty good. Didn't Mr. Seabrook on Hubnut read one of those recently? Jonathan Bramble. Ford recalled a Focus to replace the heating pipes. Yeah, they probably did, to be honest. Depeche Mode music. Now that we've been plunged into Tier 4, will Summit have to close again? Yeah, Summit have closed. Yeah, absolutely. They've closed. Like most of the dealerships, I've been in touch with Simon, who is from Langley Prestige in Chelmsford, where we filmed a lot of the cars, including the Mini, the Honda Civic, ET4, the Kia Rio, the Capri, the BMW M5. All of those were filmed at Langley Prestige near Chelmsford, and he's closed in Tier 4, and he's closed. He's click and collect only. You know, and Summit Garage will be the same. Just one of these things that I've said before. Someone suggested that you know I should perhaps you know looking at some dealers and things, but the dealers are closed in this area, as they are in most of the country. So that's a bit of a problem. Simon Sutton 600 Ti. What exactly do you mean by 600 Ti? Do you mean the 1600 Ti, or what do you mean by that? Mr. Trab Ali, your best drive music to drive to. Oh, I don't know. I like the music of old ITC theme tunes and Central Music, the old series like you know the Saint, the Persuaders, Department S, Champions, Randall Hawk at the Seas, Man in the Suitcase. So I've got 2 full volumes of I've actually got a Champions 3 CD set as well. Yes, and then of course lots of James Bond music as well. Rubbish Mechanic, Mr. Coleman, how do we go about liking the live chat? I think it's just like liking a normal video, sir, as far as I know. I'm sure there would be somewhere where you can do that. Thank you. Mr. Simon Sutton, sorry, Rover 620 Ti. Oh yes, please. Yes, Mr. Coleman used to have a 620 Ti. I'd very much like to drive one of those. I do like 600s, and I like the 620 Ti very much. Scottish Car Enthusiast TV. Think you're clicking a lot of a live chat, clicking the like button. Is that what you have to do? I don't know. Depeche Mode music. I remember in late February, Cambridge MG had literally closed after a week. I took off delivery of my MG3. Yeah, the dealership would have closed about 23rd of March. I know that because I actually did a job for a client at a main dealer in Staines on about the 17th of March, I think it was. That was the last job I did before lockdown, and I didn't have work for quite a long time. So There we go. Yeah, it is pretty rough for the car industry. That's why when we do the top 10 best-selling cars every month, it's a bit rubbish really. Seeing the sales figures plummet, and Mike Horse, who's the chairman of the Society Motor Manufacturers and Traders, he's always sort of talking about how difficult it is for the industry. And well, yeah, it has been. It's been difficult for quite a while now, which is it's a shame because we're in tier 4 at the moment, and I don't think that we need probably both our cars most of the time because we're not going anywhere for a lot of the time. So there we are. Mr. Matthew Wallace, my favourite is 90s Roadster. Well, I have done a couple of those on the channel. I did the MGTF, which Tom very kindly provided. That was immaculate. That absolutely immaculate MGTF, very similar to an MGF, but different styling slightly, and also, of course, hydrogas suspension rather than coil springs. So an MGF and MGTF are a bit different. Obviously, Mr. Seabrook did an MGF quite recently, quite a late one. The MX-5 that I did as well, those were around, but one was a Mark 2.5 one, so it's a 2003, the one I reviewed, but they came out in '98. It's very close between the two. I'd probably say the MX-5 edges it just personally, but the MG F and TF are quite close behind that as well. I haven't really tried any others. Mr. Coleman, yes, 620 Ti, ex-Manchester police pursuit car, and 230,000 miles, 98 on an S plate. Yes, I'd like to have driven that. I think bits of that car still survive in various places, but the car itself, I think, has gone to car heaven. Adam, I'm tempted to relive my youth. The choice is a late 90s Tomcat or the first generation ZS 180 hatch. What would you go for? They made the Tomcat until 1999. There was a very subtle facelift in about 1995. So the one that I drove on the channel, which is Mr. Richardson's one from Furious Driving, that one is a pre-facelift one. It's actually a very early one because the grille on the front of it was just stuck on. It shouldn't actually have that, but it looks a bit better than without it. In about 1995, they actually changed the interior for one from the R3 Rover 200. In fact, that's like the one that Mr. Richardson has in his Cabriolet. They have the same interior after 95, and they changed the engines. They went from the T Series and T Series Turbo to a 1.8 VVC engine and a 1.6 K Series engine in that particular car. So they are a bit different after 1995. They made them, I think, until 99, as far as I can recall. First generation ZS 180, they did make hatchbacks, but they are quite rare. The saloons are much more common. They made those until 2004, and then it was facelifted, and the one that I drove on the channel was a 2005. I would probably go for, personally, the ZS 180, the pre-facelift one, because it has better electrics and it's less susceptible to Project Drive than the post-facelift ones are. I just find the ZS 180 a lot more practical and a bit more spacious. Yes, that's presumably what I go for, but the Tomcat is also excellent. Mr. Bramble, my car has automatic lights and wipers. I'm capable of doing it myself. Well, we've had a car with automatic lights and wipers ourselves since 2016. The MG3 actually had those, and the Toyota didn't have them, and now the SsangYong's got those as well. I think you can actually turn those off. I think in both the cars you could turn those off. So yeah, I don't know, maybe just put it into the off position unless you actually need them. I don't mind them so much. I've got used to them. But yeah, some people don't like them. I think I did a video in the very early days of my channel saying, do you really need automatic lights and wipers? With the Tivoli, often you do need to actually put the lights on anyway during the day. So yes, you do actually have to be aware. Even if you've got a car with automatic lights and wipers, you do need to be aware what's going on and be able to override it if necessary. Trouble, if you ever see a driven a Mark II Cavalier Caliber. Funnily enough, Lawrence, who owned the Vectra C, you would have seen on No Budget Reviews. He used to have a Cavalier Caliber, and unfortunately, he didn't sell it. He didn't sell it for as much money as you'd think actually they're worth. I don't know what happened. Something happened. Just about to sell it, and I don't think he got a lot of money for them. But yeah, they're really, really rare now. Mr. G, have you ever been in a marked police car? No, I haven't actually. Not had the pleasure of that. Scottish Enthusiast, Good Fire Enthusiast TV. I made that mistake of buying a car before lockdown, hardly driven it. I've been toying with selling it for Xmas, but it's been provided channel content for me, fixing boot handles and other things. To be honest, any any channel content at the moment that you can get is probably a good thing in the situation which we're in at the moment. Yes, that's definitely a good thing. Yes, again, Scottish Car Enthusiast TV. I hate automatic lights and I like auto lights, but I hate the wipers. Either too fast or too slow. Yeah, the MG3 was a little bit like that actually. My mother's Mercedes, but has that's a lot better system. But then that car was over 3 times the price of the MG3, so you could sort of forgive it. Depeche Mode Music. I understand, but the Mark 1 MG3 and facelift have got the same engine, but has the Mark 1 got variable valve timing? Right. Okay, it's a little bit confusing. So when the MG3 was launched in this country in 2013, that car did not have stop-start. And in January 2016, so very late on a 65 plate, they got stop-start on those cars. In fact, are called the stop-start cars. And the engine management was slightly modified. In early MG3s, like the one we used to have, there would be a problem. If you weren't very, very good at changing gear between first and second, the car would over-rev when you were doing it. And all you have to do to get rid of that problem is just be very smooth with the gear changing. Both my lady wife and I got used to that quite quickly. 2016, they actually had a very mild facelift of the car, and I think the Style Plus or Style Lux trim level changed one way or the other. I can't remember whether the Style Lux or Style Plus was one that was first and then the Style Lux later. I never remember that. But they tended to get a nice leather interior, which is always a nice thing over the Style, and a little chrome strip on the grille to tell you that you had a start-stop car. So they don't do the start-stop cars in the MG3 community. In 2018, that's the full facelift. Sort of the LED daytime runouts incorporated the headlamps, different rear end, different front end, different interior, and the engines are very similar. The stop-start cars are Euro 6 compliant, and so are the facelift ones. The early cars are Euro 5 compliant, and the solenoid on top of the engine is actually being changed. So there's a chap who I know for the MG3 community actually has looked at the engines very carefully, and they can be supercharged quite easily. Obviously, most people don't do that because MGs have a very long warranty, and that will void a warranty if you do things like that. But the solenoid on top of the engine is actually different. So the post-facelift cars from 2018 onwards actually have slightly less torque than the earlier ones. The only way you can tell that, because the figures are identical, the only way you can tell that is to drive both of them back to back, which I did. The acceleration is about the same. There's no difference, 10.5 seconds to 60. The fuel economy is about the same, although the post-2018 cars actually were done on a different economy cycle from the earlier ones, so they look like the fuel economy is really bad, but it isn't. I drove the later one about the same sort of roads and things. I did 700 miles in a week in it, and they're about the same. They're not massively different. So yeah, they've both got variable valve timing, although you have to absolutely thrash an MG3 to get that to work, as Mr. Quirk from Planet Auto will tell you. But yeah, they both have variable valve timing. It's just they have a different solenoid system on them. Yes, sorry, that's a very, very, very massive rant about something that most of you probably aren't interested in, actually. Mr. Jake Newis, good evening, sir. Yes, evening, sir. You enjoyed the MG ZS EV, MG5 EV, and MG HS plug-in hybrid reviews on YouTube. Well, we aim to please, sir, and those are some of the most watched videos on the channel. So you're not the only one who likes those. Fever UK 1800. What's your opinion on road pricing replacing car tax, and do you think it's likely to be implemented? I think we've actually got road pricing coming in anyway to some extent, because one of the videos you'll see next week will be a video about the fact that in London they're trying to introduce a system by which you have to pay to enter. I think it's the expanded congestion charge zone that's coming in October 2021. You have to pay to enter that if you don't live within the area. So they already are kind of doing road pricing. I think that will be a controversial video, so we say, because everyone I do about ultra emission zones, congestion charge zones, clean air zones, whatever it is, they tend to be quite controversial. And I think a lot of the channel viewers don't like them. I think I would say that. In general, will they implement road pricing as opposed to car tax? I don't really know. I wouldn't be able to say. Mr. Woolard, how is your mum's Mercedes going? It's fine. She has decided to keep it because it's only done 15,000 miles from new, and there is nothing wrong with it. The only thing we can do is out of warranty now. It's on a different finance package. We can take it to a Mercedes specialist as opposed to the main dealer, which costs up to £800 a year to service it, which is really annoying. Jonathan Bramble, all the dash lights on all the time. Years ago, when he came up when the headlights were on. It depends what sort of car I think you have, and if it's got a sort of variable, mode for the dashboard. Depeche mode music. The latest start-stop on the Mark 1 had the chrome strip on grille. Yes, it did. Simon Sutton, have the Chinese actually sorted the K series head gasket failure issues and normal usage, in your opinion? I've never heard of a head gasket failure on the post 2008 MGTF, which had the N series engine in it, and the MG6 petrols up until about 2015, I think the facelift came in. They had the Cavacci engine. Those are both different variations or improvements of the K series, and apparently they've never had sort of an issue. So they sort of solved them. You can sort of convert a K series into an N series if you want. Mr. Adam Thomas, what are your thoughts on the MG I have a full review of an MG on 3 Jacket Reviews. I released that December 2019. It's not been a very popular video, but it's on there if you want to watch it. Mr. Alan Simpson, sorry for being late. Good evening, sir. Yes, it is. Depeche Music, Wi-Fi 2014. Yes, I know. I explained the MG3 didn't have stop until January 2016. I explained that. Mr. Andy G, I've been in many marked police cars when I had a short-lived career as an apprentice police mechanic. Yes, that's what I imagine you say that to everybody, don't you? Have you ever watched Cop Car Workshop? That's the sort of thing that I think you did. It is really weird when you see a marked police car. Everybody slows down. It's quite funny. Depending on music, sorry, has got. No, but for 2014s didn't have start-stop on an MG3. We had one of those for ages. Roach Mechanic, must go, sir. Yes. Enjoy your time at the yard, Mr. Coleman. Adri Beemans. I missed the last question answer session. I've still got a question. Are you taking? Yeah, of course I'm taking questions, sir. But put it in the question box, chat box, and we'll answer that. We've still got a little while to go, so that should be fine. Mr. Simpson, are you a New Year fan? Did you stay up to welcome in 2021 or going to go to bed? I think I fell asleep a bit earlier in the evening. I was a bit tired, and I woke up and sort of was around when it was going off, because lots of people set fireworks off in our road. So I definitely was aware of when the new year was coming in. And if you rewind to the start of the live stream, then we will have a little treat for you. Depeche Mode music. I've noted the start-stop of mine as a mind of its own. As soon as it cuts the engine over time, start-stop will flicker on and off, the engine will idle. The thing is about start-stop is it does have a mind of its own. I've had a couple of cars with it, and it only works when the battery's charged 80% or more anyway. Sometimes when it's cold, it won't work. Sometimes when you haven't heated the cabin up, it won't work. I remember driving the Seat Toledo that I had for 75 miles quite often, and that would sometimes wouldn't work when it came to a halt, and that made no sense. And yeah, sometimes it just works or doesn't work. I think the press car that I had, the 2009 MG3 that I had from MG Motor UK last year, that also had a bit of a mind of its own in terms of start-stop. I did quite a lot of miles in that in the week I had it. Adri Beemans, I'm looking for a C70 T5. I've seen two for sale. They're quite rare. I mean, obviously, my job is I find cars for people. So if you want me to do that, then have a look at that. But obviously, let me know. Again, visit my website, which is in the video description of most of the videos, or just send me an email, japl745@hotmail.com, and we can take it from there. Alan Simpson, were you a follower of rallying? Yes, probably. Back in the day, I mean, it was a long time. Quite like the things like the Subaru Legacy. That was pretty good. All sorts of cars at the time. We were doing Astras and Escorts and everything like that. So we're talking sort of early 90s. I just quite liked rallying. Mr. G, I never use the start-stop on my car to make me a bad person. Well, the Tivoli we have doesn't have start-stop at all. It doesn't have it. So I wouldn't say you're a bad person. There's many worse things to do in life than not use a start-stop. Mr. Bramble, are you ever going to do a joint review with Furious Driving and Hublot? Well, the thing is, I've done lots of collaborations with Mr. Richardson from Furious Driving. I've done loads with him. We first did our first one in June 2019. Ian Seabrook, I made a video of the first ever Hublot Social in March 2019. That's where I met Mr. Coleman. We were going to do the Santa Pod Challenge for 2020, and both those channels, along with a lot of others, were going to take part of it, but we just weren't able to do it. It was really annoying, and we to this day we've still not been able to do it, and we're still waiting for the time. But obviously, everybody who was invited to take part in that would obviously be invited again. I'd like to do it, but we just haven't been able to do that. It was a lot of fun, and people keep talking about it a lot. And Lloyd's Mechanical Marvels are doing it, Mr. Coleman, and there's some others as well. But there we go. John Edwards, what examples can you think of good car companies handing over key functions to other companies? My weekend car is a Tigre convertible, where General Electric's to French. I think it was an early year or something. I think they fell badly. Yeah, we used to have an actual twin top earlier this year, and the roof on those is notorious for being bad. And unfortunately, our one had been checked, and it still went sort of bad. So yeah. Then you got the I was speaking to somebody today in the comment section of one of the videos about the K11 versus the K12 Nissan Micra, and the K12 Micra started using Renault bits, and that didn't go so well. So yeah, there's all sorts of examples of that. Depeche Mode music and personal bits pretty much used as a fuel saving aid as a car consumes more fuel. Well, actually, that's not strictly true, because they did a test on fifth gear, which was a long time ago now. We're talking over 10 years ago, and they drove a Megane on the same route with the stop-start on or off, and the stop-start, it was about a 20-minute route, I think, in Birmingham, and the stop-start actually did make a difference. So it does, I think, actually save a bit of fuel. Obviously, it's just quite annoying, and I don't know why, but I'm like the only person in the automotive community who quite likes it. Everybody else hates it, including Mr. Coleman. Because it's 200 car enthusiast TV, I had an R36 Mini. I'd start-stop, hardly ever came on, so I presume it's broken one day, and it caught me by surprise. Yeah, they often do have a mind of their own. I've had Chevrolet Cruze I had before that at start-stop. I've driven loads of cars with it, and they do have a mind of their own sometimes. Stephen Smith, Rover 75 KV6 petrol, has glitches. Not normally, but if you do have a KV6 like the one we've got in our 45 V6, then if something like the timing belts go, or the water pump goes, or the plastic thermostat housing actually fails, which is a very common problem on a KV6 engine. We had that happen ourselves. If that happens, then that can cause issues with the head gasket. So there's two of them in a KV6. So yeah, but it's a lot less common, much less common than in the K series, much less common. My friend Jordan, who's 2004 MG ZTT 190 Plus you would have seen on the channel for No Budget Reviews about a year ago. He had to replace them in his because he had a massive failure of the plastic thermostat housing, as did we in July. Although we haven't had to replace head gaskets yet, but you know, maybe, I don't know. Mr. Woolard, I hate to stop too. The only car that's done it well is the new GLS 550, and I've driven one of those. Mr. G, do you still have a one in, one out car policy in a household? We might do. I don't know at the moment. My lady wife would be able to tell me that. I get very tempted a lot of the time, but there we go. Scotty Crown VS TV. It's Underpod Challenges this year. I guess Richard Rudd's to get another car, as Evolve seems to keep it. He could enter that if he wants to, because he's had it so long. I don't think it really matters, but you know, he do what he likes, I suppose. Walls Wheels. The only car that started stopping him was a Dacia Sandero Stepway. Yes, the Logan MCV I talked about earlier had start-stop as well, but a lot of the older cars, and it's even some of the new ones, like, you know, a lot of SsangYongs don't have that. Depeche Mode, yeah, well, unfortunately, I know too much. That's always been my problem in life. Mr. Woolard, there seems so many reasons why it doesn't work. Yeah, there's so many reasons. That's why people don't like it, because it's annoying. Obviously, visit the Matt Beamer channel. I'm sure you'll find a video about it. Mr. Simpson, have you experienced head gasket failure? Yes, I have. I have had the first Rover 45 as a 1.4 Club SE from 2004. The head gasket had been replaced already. I bought it in 2009, and towards the end of my ownership in 2012, I just inherited some money, and so I eventually bought a new car, bought my first Chevy Cruze. The head gasket was going in that already. And actually on a K series, it's quite difficult to spot, because it's not what you think. You don't get loads of mayonnaise on the filler cap and stuff like that. The car just kind of seems down on power. There's no mayonnaise in the dipstick. It just kind of happens. It's a bit annoying, really. Right, we are sort of coming close to the hour mark, and I'll just have a bit more of this lovely supper. Do any of you have any more questions? Mr. Bramble, I had a Talbot Samba with head gasket failure. I'd love to try a Talbot Samba. It'd be interesting to do that. There's not very common those. Mr. Woolard, well, yeah. The thing is about a K series is that if you're an expert like Mr. Coleman is with them, and loads of other people in the Midlands are, who work in these repair shops and road specialists, then a lot of the time with a K series it's something else. But you can prevent that happening quite well by fitting a decent quality head gasket set that's an OEM one, rather like the Victor Rhines set's very good, and know someone like Mr. Coleman who can put that back together to you properly, to make sure the cam belt water pump has been done properly, and you can actually increase the horsepower of your K series engine just by fitting the head gasket properly, which is extraordinary. I think Mr. Coleman got an extra 20 horsepower out of his 1.6 Rover 45 by putting a decent quality head gasket on it and just doing the job properly. I think it was a Lotus Elise spec head gasket, but actually does fit as well, which was interesting. Good night, sir. Yes, good night, sir. Mr. Simpson, do you ever pudding lined up? I certainly do, and I'm looking forward to it, sir. Mr. Wood, yes. The oil cap could be an issue. Yeah, there's loads of things it could be. The oil filler caps in the K series and KV600 and the early MG3s are very, very annoying. They're really bad. I don't like them at all. Depeche Mode music. Have you any plans to do a social with the fans? Yes, I wanted to do a social. I don't know. I wanted to do one in June. I wanted to do one in September. I mean, even in September, we were kind of inverted commas back to normal. I still couldn't do one because the outdoor meeting was limited to 30 people technically, and I couldn't guarantee who would be turning up. So I didn't. And the place we were going to do it was it's a really beautiful place in the Peter Street we were planning on doing it, but I just couldn't guarantee that we wouldn't get in trouble for the meeting we're doing, so we didn't do it. But absolutely, gosh, yes, I think so. And obviously, be inviting Mr. Richardson and Mr. Coleman and all kinds of other exciting people too, and of course Mr. Bill. Scottish Car Enthusiast TV. My wife had a Rover 214 that suffered head gasket failure and it suffered the hard way. She presumed the steam coming out of the bonnet was normal. It was her first car. Yes, indeed. Sometimes that happens, doesn't it? Mr. Beamer, Mr. Woolard from Mass Beamer. I'd love to meet up again. I fancy going to Harvester. Yes, we can go to Harvester again, Mr. Woolard. We're next in the country, yes, indeed, we can enjoy one. Mr. Simpson, would you ever buy a car telling a lady by first? No, but no, it's more trouble than it's worth. Don't do that. Just advice for life. That. Mr. Adam Toms, I had a Rover 414. Had escaped the failure. It still drove well, but couldn't handle the petrol. Yes, that often happens like that. Sometimes the engine's down and past, and there's look, Depeche Mode music. You definitely are invited. It's just I just mentioned the names of some channels who were invited last time. It's not a sort of elitist thing, I'm afraid. You can want it to be in your head if you think so, but it isn't. Right. I think if we haven't got any more questions, we might draw it to a close there, and I can finish my supper. Thank you ever so much indeed, everybody, for joining in this evening. As I said, we should have some videos coming out next week. Hopefully I can do the first review of 2021 quite soon. I was off of the car the last 24 hours. So hopefully that'll be appearing on the channel at some point. And then, we'll get to filming more stuff. So thank you ever so much indeed once again for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Click the notification bell and turn notifications on if you want to be told. And obviously visit Facebook and Instagram. I've got some interesting cars put on Instagram, I think, over the next few days. Thank you. No problem at all, Mr. Bill. Thank you, Mr. G. Yes, I'll be. Quantity enthusiast too. Yes, thank you. Enjoy your supper. Yes, thank you, Mr. Toms. I was just putting yes, Mr. Simpson. It was. I tried again, Mr. Willard. I'm afraid I had some beer now, so I'm a bit slow. Music. Why? I don't know. We can make it a lovely thing if we want. I'll put a poll up on YouTube, and we'll see how frequently people want it. We can do it more frequently or less frequently. It depends on what people want, really. I haven't done one of these for a very long time until last month. So there we go. So I shall say farewell to you all now. Chef and Petkov, yes, thank you, and enjoy your beer, Mr. Willard.